Welcome, everyone. You're here for the Willamette University alumni panel. I'm excited to introduce you to Jameson Watts. This is the Dean of the School of Computing. And I'm sorry, what is it now? Tell us what the name of our school is, Jameson.
School of Computing and Information Sciences.
That's perfect. Thank you. I'll let you introduce our panel.
Hello, everyone. First things first, hot off the presses, I wanted to announce that Fortune magazine recently came out with its rankings for top data science programs in the United States. And our program was ranked #1 in Oregon, #1 in the Pacific Northwest, #3 on the West Coast, and #22 nationwide. So pretty nice results. I think we're up 6 places over last year. So credit to Hillary for looking after this program, certainly, but also to the success of our wonderful alums who do so well in this program and make us look good on the other end. So I am really pleased to welcome back a few of my very favorite students. I'm joined today by Willa, Brian, and Scott. In that order, perhaps you could just introduce yourselves quickly and let this group know what you've been up to since leaving the program.
Hi, I'm Willa. Since the program ended, I have been working at Echo Northwest in Portland, Oregon. I am a research analyst doing pretty much everything that I learned in the program on a day-to-day. I am developing a few different dashboards for the company and do kind of consulting work. It's really cool.
Thank you. Brian.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. After I left the program, I actually went the academic route. So I'm off over here at Oregon State. Go Bees. Pursuing my PhD, currently going for the master's. So there's a process between that. Why I went that route, I'm trying to do a lot of research into future machine learning methods. So I have to go into stats to do that. So that's why I went to go and pursue everything that I learned from the program. I'm still using to this day. So I'll be happy to answer any questions throughout the panel. So
thanks, Brian. Scott, you're up. And Scott is he's not driving, but he is in his car on his cell phone. Stuck in Seattle traffic? No, Portland traffic.
On the way, stuck in Seattle to Portland traffic. It's going rather smoothly. More at 5. We're going to get to weather in a sec. Hey, sorry for attending for this, but I'm really glad I can join in. To the attendees, good choice. If you're considering the program, definitely go for it. Rocks. If you've already decided to go with it, good choice. So my name is Scott Richter. Been a Bearcat for a sec. After the data science program, I worked briefly as an analytics consultant for SkyPoint Cloud, which is an Oregon-based startup that was kind of half like a healthcare data services company, and then half just a business intelligence consulting firm, which is the part that I'd worked on, leading some data science and ML projects for some different clients, and things from maritime shipping to metallurgy, manufacturing, and insurance. I took like a 3-month break doing some freelance data science work. And after that, it's been almost 2 years that I've been working as a data scientist at Activision on Call of Duty Mobile and soon Warzone Mobile. My work mostly focuses on statistical research, hypothesis testing, and making sure we can make the games as good as possible for our players with some data science.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And I will probably just keep calling on the 3 of you in that order, if that's okay, as we go through these questions. I have just a couple more, and then we can let the group of folks who are in attendance also ask questions if they're interested. But first of all, Willa, Brian, Scott, exactly how are you using the skills from the MS program in your current work? And maybe highlight a project or two where you know, that is most apparent or revealing.
Mhm. I would say for me, I had no kind of experience with data science. I had some, but very minimal experience with data science beforehand. And on a pretty much every single day, I am using a skill that I learned in the program. I right now am developing a dashboard for a school in Seattle to look at the outcomes for their student body and how they compare to other groups in the community. That is all built on Shiny, which I learned in the program. And so I'm able to actually get that work done. And even at my company, I'm kind of known for being one of the better R users, which I had no experience with that before joining the program, which is very cool. And I've pointed that out a few times on the projects that I'm working on, being like, it's not been that long since I learned this, but I'm actually relatively successful in getting all of that stuff done. And people come to me all the time with their kind of issues with that, which is very cool. But yeah.
All right, so our wizard, for sure. And so these dashboards, that was in Heather Kitana Smalley's data visualization class mostly, or was that with Robert Walker?
It was a little bit of both. I definitely am taking some of the I think Robert's class really built on what we learned in Katana Smalley's, and having that kind of expertise and understanding and being able to know kind of the basics of what graphics look good and which ones actually are going to communicate correctly is very important, because this dashboard is going to be used internally by the school and by the school board to look at growth potential. So a lot of bar charts and line graphs, but making sure that you can actually see them with the colors and with the kind of different aesthetic choices in it. And so both of those classes were really pivotal in getting my knowledge to where it is today.
All right, any interactive stuff? Can they click on buttons?
Yes, a lot of interactive stuff. And we're right now, the big kind of issue with it before I send it to the first draft to the client is determining whether or not we want to use Plotly or just regular ggplot in the graphics because of the extensive and poorly formatted years that the data has.
Yeah, rough. Data quality, always an issue, right? Brian, what about you?
Oh, you know, statistics you use R. That's just plain and simple. Python has wonderful libraries, but I am using R every single day. I can highlight one project that I recently did was we were investigating red and white wines, of course, that was a really good one. And we built classification models on being able to distinguish between both of them. Involved a lot of MANOVA, a lot of F testing, which is part of MANOVA. We used unsupervised machine learning, so like k-means and other things like random forest classification models. And the program basically nailed me from the start, like how to do that with a machine learning course. And hey, that ends up paying out really well. My project ended up being a 99 out of 100 because she had to take off a point somewhere, right? Because she couldn't just give me 100%, right?
Well,
It's a
faculty
very,
are finicky
very,
like that, yeah.
I know, right? I use it a lot in terms of applying my statistical knowledge, and while I'm learning more of the methodology, really the program taught me a lot of the ideas of how to apply data science. And now that I'm like going underneath the surface of how the actual machine learning algorithms even initiated through learning distributions and statistical methods, like I said, I constantly use it every day. So it's something that I very, very grateful the program taught me, especially that it was very R focused.
Cool. Scott, are you still living in our world, or are you, in some sort of Activision vertical that they've forced you into?
Is it our world, Jameson? Our world together? No. Yeah, I mean, reader's choice, but things that I would say I've used the most from the program fall into either technical skills or don't know if I'd call it soft skills, but just everything that goes around the successful delivery of whatever technical work you're putting in. The program's great for getting familiarity with SQL, Python, and R. And I would absolutely go with Brian R for statistics all the way. Like there are libraries for it in Python, but the ease of which you can do something in R, I feel like is just, it's much simpler in R than it is in Python. It takes fewer dependencies and it's built out for statistics. So a big plus is absolutely just the SQL, R, and Python skills I've developed throughout the program that paid dividends getting in the industry, especially SQL. If there's nothing else you take from this presentation, please invest in just understanding first basic and then intermediate SQL. That'll get you so far. But just having the right technical skills for an analysis is helpful, but that's going to be useless without the way you approach an analysis, plan it out, and then communicate it to both technical and non-technical audiences, so that they just know in simple terms of what they need to get something done. That's huge. So the capstone project is a great example of the program with that, where you'll, kind of focus on making something that's useful and that is easy to communicate. Those are the two things.
What is maybe one of your favorite most recent projects that you've worked on? It's been, maybe 6 months or so since we last talked, and you were making Activision like $2 or $3 billion with some statistical tests you were doing. I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but something along those lines.
That is that's the upper level of the confidence level. No, so there's a couple different things that I tend to focus on for work, and most of them have to do with experimentation. One thing that I think has come further from my cohort has been just the development of, hypothesis testing and being able to do some research within the program. But yeah, for any big change that we want to implement in a game, we always want to test it out between different groups of players, which fortunately, if we're running a test over 3 weeks or so, we're lucky to have 11 million players in each cohort. So it gets easy to find statistical differences if they exist at pretty small margins of difference. But yeah, just familiarity with testing between continuous and discrete metrics is huge.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Willa, what do you remember the most clearly about the Masters in Data Science program, and what were your favorite classes?
I think besides just like the incredible people in it, the professors were so wonderful. It was the kind of really the focus on getting those skills developed early on. So in the first semester is rough. Like you are really hands-on learning everything and then able to kind of branch out and figure out what you actually want to be looking into and doing. And like finally having a final project that you are excited about and is showing off everything that you've learned was very helpful. And I did like the structure of it. I think probably I had a favorite professor, and any class that I had with her was just wonderful. I really liked survival analysis. That was really cool to learn and understand. I went into it being like, I don't know what this is. I don't really understand what we're going to be learning. And then very quickly was able to get that ground and I haven't been doing that much survival analysis in my job, but there are parts of it that I'm able to incorporate, and some of the testing that we did was very exciting. But I mean, it's just you really cultivated a good group of people to both teach us and inspire us to actually want to keep going.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet. I also think my faculty are the best. Brian, what about you? What do you remember most clearly, and what were your favorite classes?
Oh, that one's just gonna be machine learning. That one to me was the one I was looking forward to from the start of the program, and it delivered pretty well. I am very, very happy that the instructor that taught me machine learning, he was amazing, and he's still a wonderful resource to reach out whenever, even if I have like any questions, I know I can reach out to him about any more in-depth machine learning processes, especially for classification. In terms of one that I struggled with, but I still learned a lot, was the SQL class, the data engineering component. It is such a different, like, it opens up your perspective a lot on how you really view data, and especially when you're trying to gather it. It was a class that I absolutely loved and struggled at the same time, so it was like a double-edged sword. But I like to point out that one as well. So in terms of, my favorite classes, was both of those. Yeah, that's all I have to say for right now.
Thank you. So this year is the first year that we've kind of updated our curriculum, and we're starting to teach some Python in the machine learning class itself. And so I'm really looking forward to getting some of our current cohort back into this group next year and kind of mix them in with you all to talk about kind of the differences and how we're updating things, and how we're integrating both R and Python in the curriculum as well. Scott, what do you remember most clearly from the program, and what was your favorite class? Just so everyone knows, Willa and Brian graduated last summer. Scott graduated the summer prior to that, and so Scott is old school when it comes to MSDS.
Old school is 2 years in tech, I guess.
Yeah,
Go figure.
basically.
I'm just gonna drop off my video for a sec to make sure the connection works. Still coming in okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. Okay, the thing that I think stuck with me the most from the program is Heather still teaching data visualization?
She is.
Beautiful.
I mean, like, I'm not gonna let her go, right? I mean, she's
no,
gonna be here
don't.
as long as I can possibly keep her.
Yep. So data visualization is critical for any analyst, data scientist, engineer in communicating ideas without having to give someone a 3-page memo. If you can get something that, gives them a picture of what they need to know, literally, then that's going to be extremely valuable to you. But one thing that was incredibly useful in that course was what did she call it? It was something where we'd have to recreate a visualization in ggplot that we saw on a data journalism website. So something like 538 or the Wall Street Journal or something. She would have us look at the beginning of class to begin our class at some well done or potentially not well done visualization, and think, okay, what sort of layers did the analysts use in creating this, and how could we make something similar? Then we kind of critique it and say, all right, what are they trying to communicate with this? Did they do a good job of that? Did they use pre-attentive traits? Well, like if we're trying to highlight something, is that an obvious color while the others might be dulled? Did they use shape correctly? What's the information to ink ratio of this visualization? So just picking a visualization you like and critiquing it and trying to recreate it is something that will definitely build your skills and voice.
I love that, and I love the phrase "information to ink." Of course, that applies to verbal writing as well as visual display. But yeah, conveying as much information as you possibly can with as little ink as you possibly can is quite a skill indeed.
And just having it be the correct information, like spaghetti charts are absolutely a thing. If you're trying to show a stakeholder a line chart with 15 lines on it, when they really maybe only need to see 3, you're going to save a lot of headache just making your graphs as easy to interpret clearly as possible.
Absolutely right. Clarity is key as part of the process. Willa, what advice would you give to people who are considering this program?
I would say have an understanding of that this is going to be a lot of work. This is not going to be easy. This is not going to be something that you can kind of skate past. And if you are able to do that, you're not spending your time and money correctly. Making sure that you kind of know what you're getting into. That's the big one, I think. And being prepared to be challenged and to think about things in a different way and to look at graphics in a different way. What Scott was just saying, that kind of ability to look at things and be like, okay, what is actually being seen here, is very helpful. And yeah, especially the first semester, you have a lot of time goes into it. I was lucky enough that I was a full-time student my first 2 semesters. And so I was able to really focus all of my attention on that. But a lot of people also work. And so being able to kind of navigate that and understand that you need to rely on yourself and your community to get you through this, because it's difficult, but it's really worth it in the end, because you're going to learn something new and you're going to have kind of an incredible experience and meet incredible people.
Thank you. Brian, any advice?
If you're really, really interested in, learning about data and you just love to explore that realm, you love to go dig into Kaggle and start looking at data sets and being able to uncover things, this is the right program for you. Willa mentioned like the hardships of it too, right? You do have to be motivated. You do have to make sure you're, being very careful with, your mental health and making sure you're taking everything in, because it's a lot. It's a fast-paced program. You do complete it within a year. It's a shift where compared to me where I'm taking it multiple years, right? But a 1-year program has and will like teach you a lot. And testimony to all of 3 of us that were here, it is absolutely worth it. So, make sure you take your time to learn things. And if you're really interested in like, doing more of the statistical side, learn R more. It'll be part of the program, but if you're doing it for side research, R is more dedicated for statistical analysis, Python for more overall better mixed use of tools. Like it can do so many things as well. Every programming language has its pros and cons. And, of course, you'll learn SQL as well as part of the program too. But if you start just getting a little looking into that, just researching that, and if it seems a little bit more, not too bad, it'll be pretty easy for the program. So just, keep that open mind and, just keep at it, because it does get tough, but, we all made it through. So.
Absolutely. Scott, any advice for future students?
So it takes work. But if you are interested in pursuing this, know that there are a lot of really good career outcomes on the other side of it. Generally, these types of jobs can be pretty flexible with work-life balance, working remote. You're generally pretty fairly compensated for work. And if you're interested in research and asking questions, if you're an inquisitive person, you're curious, it's a really good field for you. If you were a spreadsheet aficionado and you want to take it to the next level, this might be for you. I'm forgetting the exact number. It was just, statistics can be, what was it? Like half of all statistics are made up on the spot. There was some presentation from Intel that I was checking out where I think they were saying like 80% of the data that exists within the world was generated in the past 2 years. And the scale of that's only going to increase for a while now. So the data is out there. It's just up to people who can use it ethically and to the best of their abilities to do something good with it. So yeah, aside from that, get started with SQL. It'll make your life so much easier. I'll put some links in the chat just for some basic introductory skills for querying data. So look for that in the chat. But if you can work on your SQL, that will take you so far.
Well, and I think that Nick Kasinyuk, if he were here, would say the same thing, Scott. He is deep into SQL, working for the state right now, and all of their varied databases over there. but yeah, I do consistently hear that, right? SQL, if you can take away, one transferable skill from a program like this, that's certainly it. But it's definitely not the only skill. Data visualization, research design and analysis, data munging, and all of the other crazy stuff that you all have to do with terrible data, which I think is kind of fun, but gives everyone headaches, is also a big part of the outcome. Hillary, that's all I have for our panelists. Are there any questions from our guests, either for me or for this group?
Sure. Well, I haven't seen questions come through on the chat yet, but we can listen. If you have a question for our panelists, feel free to chime in.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can. Go for it.
Hey, how's it going, guys? So my name is Joaquin, really getting interested more and more. I look at into this program. What I wanted to ask is, what does a day look like for, an average day look like for a student in this program? And how long how long of study time do you recommend?
Well, let me answer the programmatic piece first, and then I'll let the panelists chime in on the study time, because I'm sure that varies depending on class and individual experience. But programmatically, you typically take 3.5 hour classes each week. And so you can imagine a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evening filled with classwork. And then other times you are either doing your day job or studying or looking for a job. And Willa, perhaps you have some comments on how much out of class time you spent.
Yes, I think for the first semester, primarily, that was the one that I spent most of the time. I think probably I went overboard. I will say I went a little overboard the first semester because I was really, I knew that I needed to spend the time early on. So I think probably between 3 and 5 hours a day of studying, which I don't recommend, especially if you have a job, because that means you're not going to be sleeping. But for me, I was given the opportunity to make it. So I was studying mostly. My second semester, it kind of chilled out. I would say probably 1 to 2 hours per class, sometimes more depending on the time of the semester and what class it is. Some of them are more reading based, some of them are more kind of like technical. So it really, once you get a hang of it, it can shift around. I would say, like for me, my third semester, I had started working. So my days were crazy. I would not leave the area around school for 12, 14 hours. So I was there the entire time. And then the weekends were doing homework. But I know for a lot of people who were working, it was kind of your entire weekends are pretty much booked up doing schoolwork. And yeah, I mean, it's a good investment. You're spending time and money on it. It's worth doing that work. And some of it's really, really fun too.
And of course, we do have a part-time option if you want to work full-time and spread out the program over 2 years. But the majority of our students do knock it all out in 9 classes over 3 semesters. Scott, you had something to say on this question?
Yeah, just for the time commitments. You are learning lots of things in the program, but don't forget that programming languages are just languages themselves. So kind of treat it like you'd be learning a language like Spanish or Chinese or something. Like if you're not using it frequently to build that comfort up, you will lose it. The cool thing about it is you can always just look up syntax or how to type things. That is definitely industry standard. Googling, using ChatGPT or Stack Overflow. But if you can code at least 1 line a day and just make it a habit of kind of thinking in terms of those programming languages, that's definitely going to help you out over the long term. Just a little bit each day to maintain it.
Thank you. Good question.
All right. All right, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy, but so my situation was really well, I made myself be in hard mode. So I I'm still living in Salem, but the way my schedule worked was I went to Salem, I would go to Woodburn, I worked retail at the North Face at the time. And so that means weekends when I wasn't guaranteed weekends. So that means, I scheduled it so I would go to Woodburn, leave like at 4:30, and then be able to make it to my 6 p.m. class, go there, be able to study, and I wouldn't typically leave like Portland until like 2 or 1. I'm a little crazy, but just to make sure I would get the work done and then commute back. And it was like that repeat process. I feel like, you know, you will learn like a schedule that will work for you, and you will try your best to, make it work and be as efficient as possible, because again, this program is a time investment. You want to make sure you maximize your money you're going to put into the program, right? So I absolutely was like, I have to do everything to make sure I'm successful, right? So if you are working a full-time job and everything, just try to plan things out. And if your job allows it, that you can go kind of like temporary part-time, I would recommend that, because unless you're willing to go through the same process I did, which to be honest, I wouldn't, um, you know, I would still say it's still doable. I was able to do it, worked all 3 semesters there while trying to apply for other jobs, and it was just a lot of workload. But the point is that you guys can definitely do it. You will learn how to be an expert time you will know how to manage your time. That's an understatement.
And I feel like the cohort helps too, right? Was that you guys' impression, that it feels to me like the students in the program can lift each other up and help one another?
Absolutely. I would say I've helped Willa's helped me, and we've had our like groups that we make. You make friends really quickly at the cohort. Like, it's your cohort. You will get to know everyone. They're all friendly. They're not there to bite. And of course, the professors are also an awesome resource, and you can always ask questions after class as well. You know, it's completely doable. Just remember to ask those questions, because you're gonna have a bunch.
Oh yeah, yeah, we do. You said fast-paced, and it's true. So we'll
Any
see if
other
there are
questions?
any other questions. One thing I could throw out just quickly, I know that some of our participants in the call today are considering our MS in computer science. We don't have any alumni from that group yet because we're launching it in the fall. Do any of you have advice for people who are considering computer science? There's a lot of overlay, of course, with the data science program. Many of the machine learning or programming intensive classes will be available to the CS students too. Can I let you take it from here?
Well, and perhaps, Scott, do you work with any of the software development team over at Activision?
So my team primarily focuses on analytics for any of our mobile games, but also some of the mainline Call of Duties. We do interface though, because Call of Duty Mobile is developed by Timmy, which is like a subsidiary of Tencent from China. So we do work with our live ops and Timmy's live ops for the implementation of A/B tests, just to make sure that, because it takes the analytics team to understand the test and analyze it, but it takes the implementation of our engineers to actually get tracking into the game for assigning users to different groups, so that we have the telemetry data for that. So yeah, we do work with telemetry, but not directly programming ourselves.
Yeah, and the Masters in Computer Science is definitely going to tap many of the same kind of machine learning and advanced machine learning courses that we have on offer in the data science curriculum. The addition, or I should say the difference, is really the focus on application development. So, thinking about things like mobile application development or web application development, full stack development, those sorts of approaches to software, some JavaScript programming, HTML, those sorts of things as well. And then, of course, you need a little bit of algorithms if you're going to do computer science as well. So, Brian, I know you're studying some of the algorithms behind machine learning and statistics. There's also an entire subdiscipline of computer science that's focused on algorithms like optimizing search or recommendations or a variety of other things along those lines as well. And so there's a component of the computer science program focused there as well. And then finally, and this is something I'm hoping to offer for our data science students in the future, a focus on humans. And so we have our data ethics class that's required as part of the data science curriculum. On the computer science side, there are a number of distinct but related issues. So you can think of a course like human-computer interaction, which deals with the way that humans interact with machines. And those are sometimes large language models, but sometimes that's the application on your cell phone, and that's the form that you're filling out. That's the, whatever it is that is digital that you happen to be using to interact with, the broader world and data, et cetera. And so there are a bunch of ethical issues embedded there, and also actually kind of issues that are distinct and unique to computer science related to things like data visualization and how humans actually perceive different interfaces and different visualizations. So Hillary, does that give at least like a little bit of a summary on the computer science side of things?
I think so. You guys who are considering computer science on the call, feel free to chime in with other questions or, follow up with any of us after the meeting too, of course. So Joaquin asked a question in the chat. He's curious about how long it took you to get a job and kind of what internship pathways look like through the program. You guys want to comment on your job searches?
Yes, let me start by saying jobs take 9 months to get, and
Yeah.
so you have to start in January, thinking about what it is that you want to do in August. But of course, it varies. We've had students get jobs as quickly as 2 weeks, and as long as a year. Depending on kind of when they started the process, what else they had going on in their lives, et cetera. But yeah, Willa, what was your experience in this process?
Yeah, I didn't really apply to that many jobs. The company that I work for now, I believe, reached out to Hillary and set up a kind of a webinar to talk about the work that they were doing. And it's very funny for me now to think back on it because the people who I was so inspired by are like my very good friends now. And there's one person who was like the reason why I wanted to, like, the work that she was doing was why I wanted to go work there, and I'm actually going to be moving in with her in April. So it's just that kind of thing is very funny. But I was just very, very excited, and I was inspired, and I had applied to some things, but it's a small enough company that they were doing this really big hiring push, and it kind of, I felt like a long shot in the beginning, but then I just kept on getting responses back from them. And because I think maybe in our program, besides the people who already had jobs, I might have been one of the first ones who wasn't working in the field to get a job during the program. And some people were asking about it, and I was really inspired by the work that they were doing, and I knew where I could line up with that. And so I put a lot of my energy and time into that rather than applying to like so many jobs that I didn't feel as excited about. So people don't like it when I say that I felt lucky, but I feel like I was very lucky in that respect because I cared a lot, and that came through in the cover letter that I wrote and the talking, like what I talked to them about, which, yeah, I've had people reach out to me and ask about that. And I'm like, you need to put the time in. Don't have like ChatGPT or something like that write your cover letter. Write it yourself. Show that you're excited. Reach out to them. Just keep hounding them, because that can really help, because it shows interest and it shows that you are going to be someone who is going to be helpful there and it's going to be working well in the environment.
Brian took a slightly different path, on to even more grad school. And as someone who's done a bunch of grad school themselves, good on you. I enjoyed, all of my schooling. But yeah, going the academic route is definitely a different journey, isn't it?
It is. And then I can throw in too, we had 26 students graduate last summer. 4 of them I have now continued into PhD or pre-PhD programs out of this cohort, which is kind of amazing. Honestly, this was a professional program by design, but people are certainly using it to follow an academic path like Brian's doing.
Yeah, my journey while I was in the program, was that I applied to a lot of positions, right? And I slowly learned the reality is that you can still cold apply in LinkedIn and Indeed and get jobs. I got two of my major ones that made it pretty far for the interview process. One was an internship for Colombia, made it to the final round, but didn't pass probably the personality test. But you I
They
guess
don't deserve you, Brian.
that's what I said. I was you learn to take a lot of no's, you know, and it's hard. You get pretty down on a few days, and I had pretty down days as well. That one hurt a lot. I know when I was really close, because it would have been it would have been a wonderful opportunity though. But just because that door closed does not mean all of them are closed. So I kept applying. Another one that I want to mention was that I ended up applying and I somehow managed to get to the final round for a senior data analyst for Marion County, in Marion County Health and Human Services. I'm glad I didn't get it because I mean, to be honest, the environment was pretty depressing. But you know, you will end up getting some process if you keep continuing to apply. From what I've learned and understood and it is a skill that I wish I would have been taught much faster, is networking, talking to people, talk to other professionals, get to know them. Hey, is there an opening at your job? It's as simple as like that conversation can spark into like, hey, and then they introduce you to the hiring manager. You go from there. You skip all the steps. And from what I've heard from you and from recent talks and from former students in the statistics department over here in Oregon State, is that's really how they got into their positions, and right now, like I have a few internships that I've applied to that's directly for the US government, and we have a lot of connections here at Corvallis that, it's really, really cool, and I got reference to, right? That's really what I would say. You can take the route of continuously applying, but know that at the end of the day, networking is much better way and method to really try to get into those jobs, right? Everyone has different perspectives, everyone lands at a different time, right? Like Jameson said, I would say realistically, it's 9 months. Realistically, 9 months. If you really are trying to like be dead set on trying to get a job, the moment you land into the program, start preparing your resume, start preparing your cover letter, start really preparing yourself for like a long journey, because it's going to be a lot. But for those who have landed, I know they're making really good, they're financially secure, they're in really good positions, and most of them are pretty good in terms of like, the benefits and what they're offering. So yeah, mine was a little bit different, but I'm happy where I am right now. I'm a graduate teaching assistant. I've actually loved teaching now, and I maybe end up becoming an actual professor based on the fact that I love teaching. It's really cool. I didn't know like I would learn so much by going into teaching. So right now, like I definitely want to be for sure still like pursuing data scientist, but maybe if there's any data science positions by the time I become leave and get my doctorate degree, then hopefully I'll find a university that'll accept me there. So that's like a 5+ years in the future, but hopefully that gives you guys a realistic perspective, but don't give up. Just keep trying and you guys will find something.
So Scott, you're welcome to chime in if you have anything. I know you've been posting various things in the chat, as you often do. I'm always surprised at how fast Scott can type with his thumbs on his mobile phone. But perhaps he's, using some other magic that us old fogies don't actually know about yet, that they've developed, like, I don't know, text to speech or speech to text, something like that. Neuralink. Yeah, I can't wait to get mine. I'm on the waiting list. I had to put down a deposit. I'm not sure if I'm going to get my Cybertruck or my Neuralink first, but Elon will have all of my brain data before too long.
Yeah, my Neuralink has ads, which kind of it's not as fun.
Yeah, but
just
it's
kind
cheaper.
of blank out. No, as far as job advice and searching, a couple things come to mind. Networking, absolutely, I would echo that. Reach around your network and try to get out there and meet some people that are in similar roles, similar fields. The two things I think, aside from that, that'll set you apart is having some sort of demonstrable thing you can point to. If you have an online presence or a portfolio that shows how to take data related to something you're passionate about and demonstrate your technical skills with it, but more importantly, just show something useful that you did with that data, that's going to set you apart from other candidates, especially if it's at least presentable. And just to reiterate something, for presenting to any stakeholder, whether that's going to be your hiring manager or people at your job, stakeholders down the line, there was a presentation at Activision for just our data science community. And this one researcher was talking about how the process of analytics was kind of like shucking oysters. And as data analysts, scientists, what have you, we get really interested in all of the different steps that we take in a process, getting to insights that we want to share with stakeholders, or informing them for a decision, go, no go, or hey, produce this much, XYZ. We get so caught up in all the oysters that we've shucked and looking for a pearl that we just want to show the stakeholders this. But really, you need to just kind of set those aside and keep them to yourself and just go, hey, here's the pearl that I have from this. So demonstrate your technical knowledge on your own online portfolio with the project that you're doing, but really just the focus should be on what valuable thing you're showing with that data. Did you answer a question that means something? Did you find out something unique or interesting, or what can they take away from it? Just focus on that. So network, get an online portfolio with at least one data science project on it. And then don't take it personally if it takes a second. But yeah, I'm leaving you guys. You got it.
Thank you so much, Scott. Hillary, I think we're just about at the end of our time here. Is there anything else that you'd like us to cover?
So much good information shared. Thank you so much to our panel. This has been really illuminating for me too. It was wonderful to see you guys, of course.
Thank you all so much. And for those of you on the call, please feel free to reach out either to myself or Hillary if you have additional questions. We are happy to hear your thoughts and answer your questions via email. And of course, there you go. Find Scott on LinkedIn. There's your first networking assignment for the program. Look in the chat, look him up, and he can give you all kinds of advice, sometimes unsolicited. All right, everyone, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you all in person sometime again really soon.
Good. Thank you, Jameson. All right. Thank you, everybody.